show today. We call these home team. We've been missing Dennis because during the summer he hasn't been able to make these, but he will be back. I just want to start off by saying this morning, MDV was like on the beach. This was probably like, I don't know, what was that, like 2 months ago, MDV? And you're walking down the beach and some guys are like, hey, what did they call you? They called you something. What did they call OG?
Ripped OG.
OG, you jacked or something like that.
Ripped OG or jacked
Ripped
OG.
OG.
And it wasn't just anybody. It was a group of young Hispanic teenage kids. These kids were, the compliment meant a lot. The compliment meant a lot coming from these guys. These kids were cool. They were cool kids, man.
they were the cool kids. So we are going to get into this idea of sanctions for BPC-157 and if that should even be something that should even be considered at CrossFit or other competitions. But before they get there, I was at the gym today and I was called Diesel. So I was training, I was getting after it. Nothing crazy, just some bodybuilding stuff, a little bit of flex. And this guy is like staring at me and I'm like, dude, that's kind of weird. It was just kind of odd, right? Because I could see him staring at me through one of the mirrors. And he was like probably like 70 years old or 80. And I'm walking by him, he's like, hey man, you're Diesel or something like that. And I was like, all right, cool, dude. Have a good day. So if the goal is to be jacked, said an 80-year-old one day could call you Diesel, that was accomplished today. So good morning. It is a good day to train.
Well, I'm convinced one of the cures for male loneliness and male friendships is just being in shape. You get the head nod from people, man. That's the ultimate like sign of respect. The ultimate sign of, in the gym environment for sure. The ultimate sign of respect in the gym is the head nod or the fist bump without knowing somebody. The walk by fist bump is next level. You know you're training good that day if somebody gives you a fist bump and they give you the head nod for sure.
Oh, so good. Yeah, at the gym, because when I first started in the conventional gym, that was like part of the culture is like you'd see these guys come in and they fanny pack on, ready to go, spaghetti spring top, and bro, the vibe was just like, hey, a little fist pump, a little this, a little that. It was like an unspoken energy that was crafted around the gym. And yeah, you're right, man. Actually, I've never even thought of that, but you're right. If you're like an in-shape jack dude and you are at a gym, it's an easier way to make friends. People just come up to you and start talking to you about stuff.
For sure. I think, all jokes aside, I do think that there's something to being at the gym, seeing somebody else who's working hard, you're working hard, you give them the little head nod or the little fist bump, and like after that, you guys are fast friends. It's like, that's the initial icebreaker. And then usually 2 or 3 times after seeing that person, you're having a conversation about training or whatever. But just in general about like, I've moved a lot over the years for work or for life. And I've always been able to find friends fairly quickly, whether it's through joining a CrossFit gym or doing jujitsu or, even just like kind of riding my bike around or doing push-ups somewhere, somebody comes up to you. It definitely is an ice-breaking moment for male bonding for sure.
Gabe, I have something I want to get into in regards to exactly what MDV's talking about, but I don't want to miss out on the BPC conversation. So I think
let's
hit that real quick. Yeah, because that was something you brought up.
Well, it's a good combo. We've talked about it a little bit. Dennis has talked about his experience with it. I think, Jay, you've used the oral kind, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did. I have for like 6 weeks, and it wasn't anything to write home about, but yes.
Got it. Yeah, I've used the injectable kind on my foot for plantar fasciitis. MDV has used it as well. And honestly, like, since even just talking about it, it's funny, it's one of those things you talk about it and people kind of reach out with questions or their own experience with it. I think that it's something that's like so much more prevalent than people realize because it's kind of still this like kind of taboo thing, specifically because it is on the WADA like list of, not approved substances. But it's a really interesting, and this is because I did a little bit of research before getting on. The interesting thing is that like, there's this very like gray area between like a performance enhancing drug and something that like your body makes and is more aiding in recovery, because there's so many things that are allowed that aid in recovery. And some of this stuff just, I remember the first time I had ever heard about it was the guy from More Plates, More Dates. I'm blanking on his name, on Rogan. And they were talking about it like specific to MMA fighters and just how, in a sport where you take such a beating, having something that can just, through a training camp, help them get to this, fight that is very dangerous for many ways and not get there and have some sort of injury that can lead to really bad end results. Something like BPC-157 could be actually very helpful for the longevity of those athletes and the health. And to me, that always kind of like made it even more of a gray area, because I was always it made sense to me that like anabolic steroids, for example, are banned because it's done for the safety of the athlete, right? Like I subscribe to that a lot more than this, like certain things are banned to like quote unquote level the playing field. I think that there's obviously something to that, but to me, it made more sense that like, hey, these things should be regulated, because if it was the Wild West, athletes are going to end up really hurting themselves with these substances that aren't regulated and potentially do long-term harm for the short-term benefit of whatever their competition goal is. But like these, at least what I've seen, what I've read, and what I've heard from people that I really trust, a lot of these peptides, specifically BPC-157, doesn't seem like it has, obviously the like super short-term cons and dangers of something like anabolic steroids. And even long-term, even though, some of this research is still ongoing, there aren't any of like the red flags with many other. So if you subscribe to the, hey, these things are banned for the safety of the athletes, I think that doesn't kind of apply. But yeah, I'm curious your guys' takes there. And the whole reason that I thought this was like a timely thing to talk about is Taylor Self, who's, I don't think he's ever been to the CrossFit Games, but he's a high level CrossFit athlete. I think he's kind of been like one of those like bubble athletes that's been trying to compete for a while, that's been trying to get to the CrossFit Games for a while. Just received a 4-year ban for like just openly admitting using BPC 157 and TB 500. So that just got me thinking, like, should this, and specifically in CrossFit, maybe we can talk about just sports in general, be something that's banned overall? And then we can talk a little bit about like, why you would go out and admit it and kind of just go out and say it. But yeah, curious your guys' thoughts.
So this post, I think, went up on Barbell Spin. I think that's where I first saw this post go up. And it was, like you said, this competitor, Taylor Self, who I don't know personally. He and I have mutual friends or mutual people in the space that we both respect. And it was an admission, a self-admission that he had taken BPC 157 and then would receive, I believe, a 4-year ban from competing in CrossFit sanctioned events. That I think was the original post. I actually commented on this post that when it went up from my own Instagram account, I commented, who even cares? And not to detract from Taylor's announcement about whether or not he was taking BPC 157, but also kind of like, I think that there's a lot of substances being used by a lot of athletes. I think that this happens in a lot of professional sports. I think that we'd be naive to think that people aren't using peptides to improve their health and longevity and to be out there and competing at the highest level, especially when your body is so, when things hinge so much on your own performance and your own health and how your body feels, like in a sport like CrossFit, I would imagine that the pressure to take things to feel your best is very, very high. But my comment was more so about like, who even cares about the fact that,
who cares about the BPC 157?
Yeah, who cares about BPC 157? And really, who cares about whether or not like these athletes are like going to the games? And it's more so about like a little bit for me about like how far the games have fallen. And, Taylor being somebody who's a little bit of a live wire, I think, on social media, he's been responding to a lot of the comments on this post. He responded specifically to mine and asked me, he said, I care that you buy your followers, which I thought was a really interesting comment. I actually DM'd him because we went back and forth on this thread. I think that this is important to talk about because it was weird that somebody would comment back like that. I thought it was a little bit kind of strange. I don't buy followers on social media. I destroyed my own following and my own kind of content by deleting everything. But he's in there in the comments, man, responding and kind of like punching it out with people all the way with this one. So, yeah, I think it's. I don't know if
Go
it's
ahead.
even newsworthy. I don't even think it's newsworthy. That's the thing that like,
No,
why
it's
is
not
this
even-
newsworthy?
Well, it's not. I mean, well, I mean, look, it's the barbell spin. It's not the New York Times, right? But yes, but
I understand
but-
what you're saying. It's
but the
newsworthy
point,
for them.
I think what Gabe's bringing up. I don't know if I agree with you, Gabe. I don't think that the banned substances came around because they were worried about the athlete's safety. I think they were worried about creating a level playing field.
The purity of the event, the purity of the sport.
Yeah, I don't know where you got. To be honest, I had never even thought about it like that. Like, of course, if you started getting these anabolic, like, dude, I mean, again, back in the day, and even now, when you look at bodybuilding and the use of like some really aggressive steroids, of course, those can be bad for you. But I mean, I think the reason why so many sports since day one tried to cap some of these things, take cycling for example, and blood doping, wasn't because they thought it was going to be bad for the athletes. They did it because it gave them an unfair advantage. So I think that's where the spirit of all of this comes around is, does one athlete have an unfair advantage over the other? And I think what's going to happen is as technology improves, it's like there's going to become this really weird gray area, which there already is today, of like what is cheating and what is optimization? Because like it becomes really gray. And I think as science gets better, that's why I think those games, what are they called again? The enhanced games, I think they're going to blow up because I think there's going to be such a weird gray area in all of these sports about like BPC-157 as an example. I mean, you can name a variety of different peptides that are naturally produced in your body, and how are you going to be able to test for those? Like, it's a whole thing. The only reason why this became a thing is because he spoke on podcasts extensively about utilizing these. That's what I read. And so therefore they're like, well, dude, you can't talk about on a podcast to use these things and then still compete.
I think there's also this why do we have to have this thing that's like why does it have to be pure? What is like the drive for us to see people compete without performance enhancing substances? Why does that feel like, especially in CrossFit, there was this like, it has to be pure mentality. What is it about it? Is it the sport, or is it our desire to see just pure human potential without these enhancements that dictates what level we can get to? It's a very interesting kind of human nature response here that like a lot of people in CrossFit seem to want pure athletes only. But why is that? Why don't we allow these guys to have performance enhancing substances?
As Eric Weinstein in a podcast I was just listening to, he described it as just like, as humans, our human nature is very narcissistic, and we're very interested in like the human versus human aspect of it, which I thought made a lot of sense. The example he had is in chess now. Magnus Carlsen, I think is his name. He's like known as like the best chess player in the world. Recently on a podcast, they asked him, they were like, could your phone beat you in chess right now? And he was like, yeah, like it absolutely can. But still, the fascination with chess isn't so much watching, like someone try and play against a computer. It's the human versus human, even though at this point, like AI and computers have gotten so much better at that game than anyone else.
Pulling on that thread real quick, let's just take this chess dude. If he was able to take like nootropic or a nicotine supplement or a coffee, right? And it was able to help his performance. And then at what point does that become like an issue, right? So like,
but that's,
you know what I'm saying?
But that's why responding to what you were saying before, I mean, I just remember clearly, like as a young athlete, specifically because I was such a big Lance Armstrong fan, when all that was happening, it was always both things. I'm not saying it was one or the other. I'm just saying that the thing that to me made the most sense was like, hey, these things need to be banned because there are side effects, and you don't want young athletes coming up to abuse them because they want to be like their favorite athlete and potentially ignore the long-term effects. I remember that when I heard the two, like, hey, these things are banned and you shouldn't do them, A, because it's unfair, and B, because they're not safe. And if you're not doing them with like very careful overview of a professional, you can mess yourself up short term and long term. To me, the safety one just always made more sense because I always in the back of my head, to your point, like the whole, equal playing field, there are just so many things that make it an uneven playing field. Some athletes just have genetics, like Michael Phelps's wingspan, like the VO2 max is a measure that's in large part genetic. Like, yes, you can improve it, you cannot. Like, to me, the like level playing field was kind of like always, where do you draw the line, to your point? But the safety thing just always resonated with me a little bit more.
But Gabe, like, how I agree with you from like a
And I don't think I fully subscribe, but I don't think I fully subscribe to that now. I'm just saying, like, growing up and hearing both sides of it, like that to me just always made more sense.
Gotcha. I think it's really hard for any of these organizations now to say, like, we care about the safety of the athletes.
100%.
CrossFit specifically, for sure. CrossFit specifically does not have a leg to stand on.
Young
with
and
the safety
naive
of the
buying into
athletes.
that back then, for sure. Yeah.
Safety
No,
of the
I agree.
athletes argument. I think CrossFit's going to have an uphill battle with anybody right now saying
100%.
we don't want performance enhancing substance because the athlete's safety is the issue. Like, we don't have to get into all the details of that. But even like if you think Major League Baseball, I love having this conversation, through the mid to late 90s and probably before that in the early 90s and the late 80s, Major League Baseball was rife with steroid use. And it was very, very apparent that the league was profiting off of the fact that these athletes were hitting baseballs into the fucking oblivion. They were literally hitting baseballs further than human beings have ever hit baseballs. They were putting up numbers that had never been seen before. I watched the 1999 Home Run Derby the other day because of, the Home Run Derby, the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby happened last night. As we're recording this, the 2025 Home Run Derby happened last night. There was phenomenal performances put up by Cal Raleigh and also Ellie De La Cruz, I think was the other guy who made the finals. It was amazing to watch. But watching this 98-99 one, they're talking about, wow, Damian Easley previously only hit 6 home runs, and he's got 19 at the break this year. His career high was 6. And he had 19 at the break. And then you had guys like Brady Anderson, the leadoff hitter for the Baltimore Orioles, who put up like 45 home runs one year out of nowhere. These astronomical numbers that had just appeared out of nowhere, and Major League Baseball profited very, very, very heavily off of it, through the McGuire and the Sosa era for sure. And then they turn around and ban these people from the Hall of Fame, and they admonish them in the public eye. And that's what I have a real problem with, is the hypocrisy that I think these people know. I think that the leagues know. I think that the writers know. I think that the people who are pulling the strings behind the scenes at any of these major bodies, whether it's CrossFit or Major League Baseball, the NFL, they have to know that a large percentage of the athletes are on beat.
They might just turn a blind eye, right? I mean, look at like liver.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, we want a pure sport, and then profit off of the fact that people are hitting home runs to Mars. Like, it's not right.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, like when I was competing in CrossFit, like I really truly believe when I was competing in CrossFit for as long as I did, I truly believe they cared about it being a clean sport, and they did everything in their power to make sure it was that. That was just my perspective.
I don't know about that. They never had a third party, so that they had third party testing, but then the results of the testing were never like fully released. It was always controlled at the end by CrossFit. CrossFit determined who was going to be tested and when they were going to be tested, and it wasn't a completely independent third party.
Well, what you could say is that they could have gotten tests back that came back, like let's just say I popped, right? I could have popped, and then they got the results, and they chose not to say anything.
They could have buried it, yeah.
That is a reality, right? Because I don't know what organization. What's that?
Clip it. That's the clip right there.
Oh,
don't clip that.
Hey, for the record, for everybody listening, I never got popped because I never did anything to get me popped. And
Don't include that in the clip.
I've been around you, Jason, for 10 years of training, and I've never, I think you might even be afraid of needles, bro. I don't know if you would be able to do it. Jason Khalipa and Tommy Hackenbrook said after. Oh, wow. No official record of Jason failing a drug test. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, dude, I have bro, come on. I put myself through way too many awkward situations for someone to come out and tell me that I wasn't drug tested. I've had more odd encounters with random dudes showing up at my house and at the events than I'd like to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've had so many of those, dude, and people don't talk about that because
When you were
it's very
actively
uncomfortable.
competing, they were testing you quite a bit.
Oh yeah, they'd show up at my house, and the worst part about it was, dude, I mean, you don't know when they're going to show up at your house. They'll give you a call and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be at your house within the hour," but they might be there in 30 minutes, they might be in an hour, and then you're like training, you're doing whatever. Maybe you'll use your restroom, and bro, they'll just sit there until you can go to the pee again. I mean, it was just so awkward. Everything about it was awkward, but it was what it was. Like,
The other interesting angle to this, I think, and I don't know if you guys disagree, is the whole like making the decision to openly talk about it and kind of admit to it, because, and I think that part of it is exactly what you were saying, MDB, like the fall of the CrossFit Games and no one really like caring anymore. Because it used to be that if you were a CrossFit Games athlete, like that could be you're into like making it as
Big time.
an influencer, you're into like
Sponsored
whatever,
athlete.
building your brand, like that's kind of the thing.
Nike, Reebok, etc.
Exactly. And now, and I think that Taylor's actually done a great job. I've never watched any of these, but I've kind of like from the periphery seen how successful it seems like it is. But like, he's like the guy from the whole, like, like Kill Taylor thing that they do with Saban, which tends to get a lot of views. It's just like, I think once a week they have like a cash prize to see if someone can beat him in a workout. Like, I think that those guys, Saban, Hiller, Taylor, have done a great job just with like content and branding, and have really shown that you can like be successful or as successful as some of these athletes that maybe make the last spot at the games, because it's not really just, hey, I made the games that's going to do it. You have to now like have a shtick, you have to be entertaining. You have to be
well,
putting
no,
out stuff that like,
or
that
you
like
could
gets
just-
views.
or you could just be undeniable and perform really well. I mean,
Well, sure,
that-
but
like-
then
like
that's
Tia doesn't
limited.
have-
But that's limited
Tia
to
doesn't have a
one
stick-
or two,
stick.
three people.
She's just so legit, right?
Yes, but that's
Yeah.
limited to 1, 2, 3 people. What I'm saying is like you just qualifying for the games and coming in
Oh.
like the last 10%.
Name
isn't
anybody
gonna
who's
put you
below
in.
the fold in the game.
But Gabe, I mean, I would
I
make
can't
the
name
argument.
anybody. I'm not trying to knock them.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no,
saying
for sure.
the
But it's
game
just
has
it's
changed in the
changed.
CrossFit
It's
Games
changed
for
for
But I
sure.
think that that's
The
always been that
personality.
way.
I don't know about that, Jay.
Dude, I don't
No,
think I don't
no,
think if you
that's
if
not
you
true
were,
at all.
if you were barely skirt okay
No.
if you were like a competitive, if you were finishing, if you were like, I don't know, bottom half of the games, I don't think even at CrossFit's prime people would have known who you were.
I disagree with this because
Very different.
I
Very
disagree.
different.
The game was all about sponsorship. At the time that CrossFit was at its biggest, competitive CrossFit was at its biggest, Reebok and Nike were literally in a bidding war for every athlete who had a significant following. Every single one. And at the absolute peak, there were people down the ladder, all the way down to like the 10, the 15, the 20, who were gaining notoriety, gaining Reebok sponsorships. The magnifying lens was on them because they were, CrossFit also was pushing these narratives of these athletes who were part of these sponsored brands. Like you had people all the way down. I'm not trying to shit on people like Lindy Barber, but Lindy Barber was, not anybody who really got out there and competed at like the highest level, 1, 2, or 3, I don't think. But she had a significant following. She was a fantastic athlete. She had a great look. She was sponsored by Reebok Athlete. And now with these other brands that are like with Reebok and Nike specifically out of the equation, I just don't think that there's room for people who are not the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 competitors to really gain a lot of notoriety. So people like Andrew Hiller or Savan or Taylor Self, they have developed significant online personalities because they're entertaining, regardless of whether or not you agree with their shtick. I don't agree with the Andrew Hiller shtick like completely, but I do think that he's got a voice. It's obviously striking a chord. He's smart with it. And I may not even agree with Taylor Self's, position, but who the fuck do they care what I think? No, they're just out there doing their thing, which is great, which is what I told Taylor when he responded back to me with the sharp comment. I say, okay, that's not the case, but keep doing your thing, bro. Like, keep doing this because it's obviously working for you.
And what I was saying is that in the world where just qualifying for the games isn't a differentiator at all to just, having an online presence and just being undeniably entertaining and creating a brand for yourself, I think that, the balance of like, hey, I think it's better off for me to just say, hey, this is something that I do. And by the way, you can purchase these same peptides at, this brand using my discount code, just makes sense. Like, it's the smart decision to do, because the thing that, at least in my research, came up too is like, they can't really test for this stuff yet. Like, it's really, really hard. Like, even if you were to get tested, they can test for like the bigger, more well-known steroids and like, a lot of the banned substances. But specifically if you're doing like very small doses, and the thing about BPC-157 is it's not something that you would do all the time. You would do it because, hey, you're dealing with like a little injury. So you do it for like 2-3 weeks. It helps you get rid of that injury, and then you kind of get back to training. So it's kind of one of those things where I mean, just based off that alone, I can't imagine that it's not super prevalent even amongst the athletes that are making it. And like, for them, it's just the cost benefit doesn't make sense to obviously go out and admit it, but it's really easy to do these things and not get caught now. And I think that was another interesting part about, someone being quote unquote put on the ban list because they just went out and like made an announcement about it. It's like a pretty calculated decision if you take into account the fact that, like, I don't think it would have been difficult to just keep using those things and like not get caught.
Who was the strongman guy? He's married to Katie Hogan, Jesse Burdick. Jesse Burdick. I remember I was riding in a car to the games with Jesse Burdick at one point, and he had been in the strongman community for a very, very, very long time. He's an absolute fucking stud.
Powerlifting.
Powerlifting strongman. And I'm not trying to misquote him here, but we were driving to the games at the Home Depot Center one of the years, and he was in the car with me and a few other people, and we were talking about PEDs. And he had mentioned, again, I'm trying not to misquote him, once your sport has a problem with women taking performance-enhancing drugs, that all of the men are tainted as well. And I think when you come down even further, boutique medicine, whether it's Blokes or Marek Health or whatever, for performance-enhancing substances, testosterone or BPC-157 or TB500 or any of these other peptides, they're very, very deeply utilized now in the civilian community. Civilians
general population is and
the
I
gen
actually
pop
encourage it.
for sure.
Yeah.
If it improves your quality of life and you're doing so under the watchful eye of a physician or somebody who's guiding you, and you feel good about this decision and you understand that there are certain risks to taking these things, who are we to say that you shouldn't be able to take these to improve your quality of life? They're not illegal.
No, but and that's the thing, MDV. I actually think they've improved a lot of people's quality of life that I know. TRT and clomiphene have really done wonders for people I know.
That's apples and oranges, right?
That's apples and oranges. But I think where the problem with the sport comes into play is dude, if you're committing to competing in a sport, it's super important to create a level playing field. And I think there's also this problem, and Gabe, this is kind of what you alluded to. I could see an argument here.
Is it important to create a level playing field?
Well, so that's the thing. So take jiu-jitsu, okay? In jiu-jitsu, IBJJF, which is the governing body that I'm going to be competing in soon, they drug test. I don't know if they drug test at Master Worlds, but I know they drug test. It doesn't matter to me if they do or don't. So because they drug test, they adhere, certain athletes come in there. ADCC and some of these other competitions do not drug test. And so I guess my thing is if you decide to go compete in a governing body that does not drug test and you are not on gear, are you at a significant disadvantage? And so now it encourages all the athletes to get on gear because some of them are, and it just opens the floodgates. But then all of a sudden you have athletes who can't afford to get on gear because it's so expensive. And now what happens to the sport? And I do think it's important to try and create a level playing field in sports. I think, and not to mention, MDV, when it comes to records being set, I mean, that's a whole different conversation.
Oh, I mean, dude, it's such a nuanced conversation. It's very tough to get into this because there's different eras. There are different things that came around. Then you start to get into should Tiger Woods be able to have LASIK surgery to improve his eyesight that helped him win X number of Masters in the second half of his career? It's very tough conversation for sure. The jiu-jitsu thing is interesting because you're entering into a physical, not CrossFit is a very physical sport. 100%. It requires your strength, your skill, your awareness, but you're largely competing against yourself and the weights that are in front of you. In jiu-jitsu now, you're fighting another human being who is enhanced potentially, right? So that's a whole different ball game. And I think, like, you know, when you talk about things like ADCC, a lot of the guys who are competing in that know that they're competing against a potentially enhanced field. You know, Gordon Ryan has openly admitted to
I think at this point he has, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, whether or not there would be complete speculation on my part, but like if you look at him when he competed in the ADCC finals, I mean, he is a very well-muscled, primed human being. He was at pinnacle shape, however he got there, and I think a lot of the rest of the field was also in pinnacle shape at that point.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, were
this
you
is
gonna say
really-
something? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, this is just interesting because I was looking up based on what I was saying, just to make sure that what I was saying was right about, you know, these peptides being really hard to test for. And so, like, if you were to look at all performance enhancing drugs, well, the common ones, like basic anabolic steroids, nandrolone, deca, trenbolone, like those are super easy to test, very cheap test, like almost impossible to skirt that if you're actually on it. So are SARMs. Those are all in the category of like low hanging fruit. Then come fairly catchable classic stimulants like amphetamine, clenbuterol, if you're taking stuff like that. Then tier below that, middling, like these start getting much harder to dose, usually only tested in like 30% of tests in most sports, some even 5 to 10% of tests only. And then you have like RHGH, I don't know what some of these things are, HGH, human growth hormone, stuff like that. And then below all of that is healing peptides, like harder than all of those things. They're not tested for. You'd have to have like a pretty big dose pretty soon before taking a test. So you just look at that type of information and you hear how common it's being talked about and people talking about the benefits. And, you know, it's impossible to think that in a sport where people get banged up as much as they do, that there isn't just like, I would assume that 80% of athletes training for the CrossFit Games have used this to deal with some sort of injury in some way or another.
Well, and then, I mean, dude, it opens up a whole can of worms. I mean, what's the difference between doing one BPC-157 for a month and getting on a, you know, antibiotic that's going to help you do, like, it just starts to create this really gray area of like medications. I mean, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but there was a time where every single thing I took, I called CrossFit and asked about.
Every
And I
supplement.
mean, we're talking about, dude, we're
Whey
talking
protein.
like, well, dude, all of it, like even like over the counter stuff. When I was like, I remember one time like my allergy was really bad, and I wanted to take a, you know, like an anti, like you know, like a nasal decongestant during the CrossFit Games, and I messaged them because what I was worried about is, let's just say you podium and you get tested, and all of a sudden something pops up in there.
Yeah, there's
It
amphetamines in there sometimes, right?
There's like all kinds of stuff. So anyways, I ended up not being able to take certain things, but it just brings up this whole can of worms, man. And I don't know where it's going to go. I'm actually really intrigued by it because I think like these games we're talking about, the enhanced games, I think, dude, it's going to be, because do they test at the UFC? Do you guys know if they test for?
They do. They do test. Yeah, they're in an active testing pool because fighters have to be eligible for testing to be able to fight in the UFC. Like McGregor famously is in and out of testing, right?
Yeah. Hey, did you see the so the only reason why I was even up on this is because of
Conor McGregor. You want to talk about the Conor McGregor thing?
No, DC. So you know, Daniel Cormier is following Train Hard, and he's been I guess for lack of a better term, like a client of mine. Like I work with him every single day, and he was just in. They just had UFC fights in, what was it, Nashville? Was it MTV?
I didn't watch the most recent ones.
But dude, this guy wins the event. This giant monster of a man, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it was hilarious. So
Was
the
it
one
Derek
reason why-
Lewis?
Yeah.
Derek Lewis.
I
right?
saw something pop up. Derek Lewis. He's called the Beast, by the
Dude,
way.
so this
My
guy-
balls are hot. He's famous
That's
for
right.
taking off his pants in the ring.
He's got
saying
the
his-
best
balls are hot.
post-fight interviews.
He got a
Dude, so
sponsorship off of that. Keep
I
going,
didn't
Jay.
know anything about his post-fight interviews. I didn't know anything about this stuff, but I'm just a DC fan, right? So I'm like looking up like fight interviews, just like, hey, how did he do on the interview, right? I'm looking at it through DC's lens. And so sure enough, I pull up this guy's fight and the guy knocks out the other dude in like, I don't know, 45 seconds. He finishes the fight and his wife is in the ring. And DC's like, hey, so, what are you doing next? Like fire it up. And the guy's like, I've been away for 2 weeks. I'm doing my wife right there. I'm grounded and pounded.
Oh my God. Derek Lewis he's on a hot mic at all time.
All time.
Dude, right? Hey, Gabe,
Good for him.
did I
Good
butcher
for
that?
him.
Or did I butcher? I mean, no, that's exactly what he said, right? Like,
Yeah, because the question was who's next. So that makes it even better. The question was who's next. Talking about like who's he gonna fight next. And he said my wife, and he said there's gonna be a lot of grounding and pounding.
I've been gone for 2 weeks, so I want my wife next. It's gonna be a lot of grounding and pounding.
Look at his wife. She's shaking her head.
Dude, the camera panning over to her might be the best part. Oh man.
Derek Lewis got sponsored by Manscaped after he won his fight, took off his shorts and said that his balls was hot.
Dude, now I don't know what sponsor is coming up next, but I can only imagine. So I'm on the phone with DC and shit. I'm like, bro, what was that? He's like, dude, I couldn't stop laughing. Like, it was just one of those moments where the post-fight. There's been some damn good post-fight interviews. Like, I've seen some really good ones, some bad ones, obviously, but like, dude, there's been some really good post-fight interviews. But that one was pretty classic.
It's interesting to see the people who really stand out in the UFC. Are the people who not only during the fight are entertaining, but obviously leading up to and selling the fight. But then the post-fight interviews, man, is really where you see some of these guys and their star power shine. Obviously Conor McGregor was one of the masters. Michael Chandler was amazing. DC was always great on the mic.
Who's the guy, kind of like lighter weight guy, and he goes in there, he's like, the world wants to take you down, but I keep coming back and back. Like, it was like a very inspirational, like.
Might have been Michael Chandler. Chandler's very famous for like those kind of interviews.
I'd have to look, but.
I'd have to look too. But there's a stark difference between the champions who can talk on the mic and then the guys who can't. And the guys who can't are just not as entertaining. They're fantastic fighters. They're some of the best fighters ever. Merab Disswalazwili, who is, his nickname is The Machine. He's unbelievably well conditioned, probably one of the hardest guys to take down ever. But he's not great on the mic, and his fights just don't sell as well because of it. And it's interesting that there's that level to the game when it's also an entertainment sport.
Yeah, for sure. I back to like what we were talking about earlier about making friends. So. I've been really blessed because of CrossFit. Anywhere I travel in the world, I typically can just go find a CrossFit gym, go make friends. And this has gone on for, almost 20 years. But the same thing happens in jiu-jitsu. It's so crazy to me. Yesterday, I'm training because I'm getting ready for Master Worlds. And I'm staying at my in-laws' house in Mexico. And dude, I go in, I take a class. The owner is from Texas, Houston, Gabe. This guy, I guess, remember when you guys had I think you were living there at the time, had like the big freeze. Remember that one? You were there, right?
We were here, yeah. We had closed. No, we were waiting to close on the house. But
I remember you were broadcasting from your truck, bro. Taking calls from your truck, freezing your whatever off.
So this guy, I guess they were traveling. They come home. Their house is like completely frozen over in Houston. And they're like, all right, we're out. And so they take the next 3 months to like renovate or fix it, and they sell everything they had, and they moved to Mexico. And they started a jiu-jitsu gym, and that was 4 years ago. And it's been really interesting talking to him about how jiu-jitsu's grown here in Mexico and the youth and how much they're getting into it. But just going to the hospitality side of like this mutual respect. I walk in there, obviously I try and be kind and gracious. And dude, these guys drove me back. They like, it's just, there's something about that shared suffering through CrossFit, through jiu-jitsu, through doing hard things that creates this instant bond where you become friends.
Yeah. There's also something in Latin America and South America that's a little different than North America. I was very fortunate to travel both for CrossFit and to Reebok multiple times overseas to different parts of the world. But in South America and Latin America, man, when you can walk into some of these community gyms where these people love the same thing that you love, you can really see the passion in their culture come out, and how hospitable they are to you, offering you meals, offering you food, places to stay, recommendations. Hey, do you need this? There's probably nowhere else in the world where I felt more well received than when I was in Brazil visiting CrossFit gyms, man. I mean, they just went above and beyond to a level that I had never seen before. And I think that that's also part of like the South American, Latin American culture for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I had a good time. I had a good time in Brazil when I went down there. It was nerve-wracking. It was a little
Dude,
bit.
they're out of their minds. They're out of
Yeah.
their minds down there, not only for CrossFit, but for jiu-jitsu. And it's so fun.
Well, of course.
Jay, I
Yeah.
can't imagine what it's like for you, but even for us when we were walking around, man, every gym that we visited, it was like, we train right now. Like they just want to train and throw down all the time.
Dude, yeah. There's a lot of energy, I think, building in the CrossFit Jiu-Jitsu space, especially obviously in Brazil, because it's just such an old school thing. But dude, I gotta tell you, so I was just walking by, right? So I'm walking by and I hear, hey, who thinks they're a macho man and could do the most push-ups, right? I'm just walking, and I'm like, all right. I was like, okay, all right. So I'm with Ashley. She's like, I think you could do the most amount of push-ups.
Fuck
like,
yeah. Let's
I
go,
was like-
Ashley.
I was like, all right. And so sure enough, me and a group of like 10, 20-year-olds battle it out with our feet on a chair. So the feet, your toes were on a chair, your hands were on the floor, obviously. And the guy is like down, up, aripe, abajo, or whatever. Like, did I just totally butcher that, Gabe?
Gabe, come on, translate for us here, Gabe.
Aripe? No, definitely not Aripe. Arriba.
Arriba.
Wait, hang on. What was it?
Abajo.
Down,
Arriba,
up, right?
abajo.
Arriba, abajo. Arriba,
There you go.
abajo. Over and over and over again. And dude, we ended up going for a while. But yeah,
Did you win?
I'd like to think that I took the runner-up position. There was a guy there. My brother-in-law later on came up to me. He's like, hey man, I'm just letting you know, like all the guys did good, like you did good. But that guy over there, he was built different. He didn't show a single sign of weakness. He's like, he was a machine. He could have kept going for an hour. I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I stopped when I did then. But yeah, man, it was a really interesting test for me. You know, I was messaging Liz about this, that here I am at coming on 40, and these guys were all in their like early 20s. I mean, a group of them were all there for their 21st birthday. So like they were 21 years old. And dude, holding it down for the older guys. The guy next to me happened to be a professional. Oh, look,
Oh,
Liz has
bro,
the
are we
video.
doing this? I'm doing this. Come on, we got to
Look
do
at that.
this.
Look at that. And
Where are you, Jay?
you didn't hold the bottom. So you went down, you held an inch off the bottom, and then you came back up again.
Look at this little meat market on stage here. All these ladies looking at
Dude.
Jason.
But the guy next to me, so the one guy next to me, I started having a conversation with him, right? And super nice guy. Like actually it all comes full circle. So I'm having a conversation with the guy next to me, super nice guy. He's like, hey dude, that guy next to you, he's a professional boxer. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started talking to the guy next to me, and he's a professional boxer. He was definitely a little, because I was sober. This guy was maybe had a couple of drinks, but we started having a good conversation. But he's a professional fighter out of Texas. And dude, it was just good vibes all around, bunch of push-ups, and got me oddly sore, because not every day you do push-ups with your feet elevated on a plastic chair and you hold about an inch from the bottom.
Well, that was really what probably got you
legit.
sore, was the calling of the up and down reps, not on your own comfortable count. Gabe,
Yeah,
would you
dude,
do would you do a competition like this?
Yeah, for sure.
It's so funny. I was walking back, and
Dude, and Jay's push-ups on his own, little suspect.
so whoa.
Here he
whoa,
had people
whoa.
watching. Jay's
So-
push-ups are,
So there was some way worse ones than me, for sure. But
Worse than your
Ashley's-
squats?
Ashley's like,
doesn't
yeah.
say much.
Ashley's like, if MDV was here, he'd be all about it. I was like,
Oh
he'd
yeah.
be all
I
about it.
walked by the push-up contest the other day at the beach. I didn't do it.
You should do it.
These kids were like kind of egging on this older guy, and it wasn't a real push-up contest like the one that you just showed. It was like these like young Marines from Camp Pendleton were kind of giving this older guy a hard time, and they were doing push-ups on the beach over here. And
Dude,
I was
you gotta
tempted,
jump
but
in.
I didn't hop in.
I think the takeaway there though is like, dude, I'm with my wife, walking down the beach, and you hear a push-up contest, like, bro, like we talk about bulkhead ready. This is like
push-up content, push-up
contest
contest ready.
And she got a kick out of it too, dude. She was like, hey, I liked it.
Did you give a post push-up contest interview like Derek Lewis did, or no?
I didn't give any. I didn't give any interview, but you should ask her how she felt. She liked the energy.
Yeah.
She liked the energy.
Clip it. Clip it.
Oh,
I
man.
like that Ashley was like, Jason, get up there. Come on, let's go. You've been in the
No,
CrossFit
yeah,
Games so many years. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
man.
but hey, that's what it is. The motivation on today's podcast is take BPC-157 if you want to, find out a gym to create connection, and when available, just go do the push-up competition. Don't even second guess it, dude. Like, it's because you're gonna remember that. Why not, right? Like, what worst case scenario? You're the first one to go out. Who cares?
We got to create some sort of train hard. Aside from the burpee test, we got the burpee test down on lock. Jason's got the burpee test down on lock. You got to be able to do 15 burpees a minute, well, for at least 5 minutes. That's where we're looking as like the standard of doing okay. If you can do it for 10 minutes for 15 reps, you're pretty good. If you only got 3 minutes at 15 burpees, you got some work to do. But maybe we got to create some sort of like train hard push-up challenge or something. I'll get to work on that. I'll brainstorm that.
On the chair definitely made a difference for sure, and not pausing at the bottom made a big difference too, right?
Yeah,
and it's hard.
Yeah, controlling the reps is much harder than just flailing up and down.
I'm telling you though, this one guy, dude, he must have been on some gear, dude.
No, calisthenic guys are built different.
Bro, no, this guy was built big.
Oh,
this guy
big?
was huge, giant chest, and he just had no adjustment in his swagger, bro. Just bah, 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 bah. I mean, I'll have to show you guys on the video. He's the guy all the way to the right. But anyways, nonetheless, when it comes to the burpee competition, I'm getting it's so interesting how many people get so wrapped up in the burpees. I've gotten so many messages that, hey, you're not doing a burpee. It's like, bro, you could jump and clap with the burpee if you want. You could do a strict push-up. You could not. You could do it however you want to do it. The gold standard that I've came up with for myself is just go to the ground and come back up again. If you want to jump and clap, go for it. If you don't, that's fine too. I don't think it matters. I think the intention is, can you go to the floor and can you get back up again? So.
Well, if that's your standard, I mean, if it's your thing that you're out there pitching, your standard is get down to the floor and then stand back up with your knees and your hips mostly locked. That's it. There's no jump and clap. I think Gabe had a really interesting reel that he posted the other day. I reposted it because Gabe's in his garage. Well, no, I didn't see that. But Gabe's in his garage getting after it. He looks fucking amazing. He's chiseled, ripped to shreds. He's living this Texas life out there shooting deers with a, I don't know, AR-17 or whatever he's got from his window. He's full Texan. But he posted about quarter reps, half reps, and partial reps and being really beneficial for muscle building. I think that this is a topic that we should tackle another day where did CrossFit really get range of motion kind of a little bit, did they go a little too far with the range of motion concept? And I think that, if we go deep into the annals of CrossFit, what we'll find is the fact that range of motion is really about a full functioning, healthy joint, right? You're taking the joint through its full range of motion and you're expressing the movement in a way that you're satisfying the joint's end ranges in a safe and effective way. But I think a lot of people might have been taking this a little too far where they start to shit on things like, Jason's burpee. It's not a full burpee because he didn't jump and clap. Really? Does that really matter? I think it matters for CrossFit competitions and for CrossFit standards. But if we're talking about just doing a movement that's highly beneficial, sprawling to the ground and getting back up.
And you can even make the argument, though, MDV, that it would have been an easier standard to judge.
100%.
Go to the ground and stand back up vertically.
100%.
Because the jump and clap was so great as it was. Is
100%.
it a clap behind the head? Was it a clap overhead?
CrossFit had a lot of nonsense standards for their movements. Gabe's gone. In terms of like half of the wall ball getting above the line, or like you have the athletic potential of the handstand push-up in the box and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff they tried to standardize. Exactly. They tried.
The easiest one would have been, burpee, jump onto a plate and then stand up vertically. Like that would be like the easiest thing. But, dude, I remember the 2009 CrossFit Games, bro. with the deadlift burpee, I mean, you had people like staying horizontal, jumping and clapping on a burpee, right?
Yeah.
Because
Where
it
they
was
should have
like,
just had it jump over the bar. That's why they make the burpee standard in a lot of cases just getting down to the
get
ground
over
and
the
getting
bar.
over the bar, because it's easier that way with seeing a 2-foot takeoff and a 2-foot landing than to make a judgment call whether or not somebody's hips and knees are open at the top of a jumping burpee. And even the 2-foot landing and the 2-foot takeoff,
That's
if you
hard too.
just step over the bar,
Yeah.
who cares?
Dude.
Because it's faster to jump.
Yeah, I just always found it interesting that, like, you know, you put up something to inspire people just to go to the ground, come back up again, and people get so wrapped up. And by the way, I asked Hiller to jump on a podcast. He has not taken me up on that offer to just have a conversation about this whole idea that there's, with training age comes different perspective. And I think obviously if you're competing, that's a different thing. CrossFit Games are actually coming up in like a month. I am not attending them.
Yeah. They're in Albany, New York this year?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see, because the word is that ticket sales are very, very poor. And so I'm wondering if what they're going to do is black out the arena. You know, like they've done that, like even in some of the sanctioned events, they'll black out
portions of the arena to make it look like there's more people in the stands.
I don't even know if that's the right term, but like they'll just turn off the lights. So like I don't, not like cover it with a black thing. I think I've seen that before too, but just turn off the lights that they move everybody down to the bottom. I think that's what they're going to end up having to do.
Well, the open announcement where they had you and Rich Froning competing on the stage with all the athletes, all the spectators around it, that was one of the cooler moments of CrossFit. I think that was an amazing type of scenario, amazing type of setup. You couldn't have had a better event. I think you guys were doing thrusters and pull-ups, if I'm not mistaken. You know, I think that there's a lot of lessons learned over the years in how the sport is not imminently watchable if you're just trying to be as unknown and unknowable as you can make it. And they've fought an uphill battle for a long time. Why not just put these guys on a small stage and have them fucking do Fran or something, bro? Like it's so much more watchable, so much easier. You can watch these people go back and forth, but we'll see. I'm interested. I don't think Albany's really like the sexiest location in the world. It's not super easy to get to. It's a regional airport only. So I think people are going to have a harder time getting there. You got to fly into New York and then drive or fly or take the train to Albany. Yeah, it's an interesting shift all the way from Home Depot Center to where we're at right now.
Yeah, the next 3 to 6 months are going to be really interesting. Gabe, you bounced off, but welcome back. Welcome back. Now I can't hear you. That's okay.
Audio gone.
Uh-oh. Oh, let's see if he's back now.
What do we got, Gabe? No.
Nah.
No.
No go, Gabe.
Gabe, sorry.
It's that
Texas weather.
It's that Texas weather and internet. But
all that freedom, not enough internet.
Yeah, dude, that's the problem. But, you know, I do think for everyone who's, you know, been enjoying this conversation, we have a really great challenge coming up in September. But before we even get there, right now, the program I have DC doing, Daniel Cormier, the program that we follow on a regular basis, I follow it every single day. It really comes down to a few basic things. It's getting in my 45 grams of protein by 9 a.m. It's been a game changer for me. That's the first thing I do. It's, in general, severely reducing alcohol or limiting it entirely for some people, especially for 45 days, which is the challenge we have coming up. And then it's, you know, getting in burpees to start the morning. Like, dude, if you know somebody who wants to get back on the path, I'm telling you, tell them to wake up tomorrow 5 minutes early and go to the ground and get back up again. I don't care how you do it. You could step back, you could flop down, you could do whatever you got to do. It'll get easier over time. But tell them to wake up 5 minutes earlier, go to the ground, stand back up again. And
make sure you're moving your body, man, every day.
That's it.
Get out there and
That's
get
it.
some work in, right? Jay, you're out there doing Train Hard daily, nearly every single day, testing all these workouts. They're amazing. For somebody who wants to be capable, strong, fit, dangerous on the mats, I think Train Hard Daily is a fantastic program. And Gabe is pioneering a bodybuilding program that's putting him into an upper echelon of physique. Gabe really looks absolutely incredible right now. I'm going to gas my boy up a little bit. I'm watching his reels. I'm seeing how pumped up he looks. And I tell him every time, I say, Gabe, you got the physique, man. He's put in work for 3 years now on a program that's probably one of the best bodybuilding programs that I've seen based on the results that this kid's got.
When is he doing a bodybuilding competition?
I don't know. We got to see him in his skivvies, bro. I gotta see Gabe in the little grape smuggler.
Dude, so Gabe's final word, well, one, check out the podcast show notes. Make sure you're joining us on the Train Hard app. We just reinstated the 7-day free trial. It's an opportunity to go on the app, low barrier to entry, just go check it out. But man, I'm telling you, TH Daily, Flex, we have a variety of different programs. You can take a quiz and find out the perfect one for you. But jump into the app, hit up the community section, join us. It's the only way. It is the way.
It's been a lot of fun.
And according to Gabe, it's Chunkless. I am totally. He's still on mute because his internet is not working. But basically, sandals are the least functional footwear in the game, and maybe we'll save that as a conversation for the future. Because essentially, for my training, I train in 2 types of footwear nowadays: barefoot or with sandals. 90% of the time, I go barefoot. But every now and then, especially on the bike, the reason why he's making fun of me is because I was doing bike intervals, and towards the end of these intervals, I started off barefoot, but towards the end, my feet started to hurt because I was grinding on the pedal hard. And I'm not going to go put on shoes, so I just threw on sandals, but I probably shouldn't have used that as a clip.
I love that. You should have. I love it. Good for you.
But Jay's delicate feet, that's right. I have flat feet, and so therefore my feet, I take up more surface area, and it's that much more challenging for me to be pedal barefoot. Yes, here Liz put it up. Yes, I am wearing. But dude, those sandals, bro, when you train them enough, you could learn how to kind of like clamp them down. They're a great training tool. Gabe's laughing his ass off right now.
I don't know if they're a great training tool. I do think that if you're worried about what your footwear is versus just going out there and getting a workout in, just go out and get the fucking workout in, man. I don't care if you're barefoot, you got sandals on, you got your loafers on, you got jeans on. I just don't care. Just go do some work. I think waiting for the perfect outfit is a nonsense excuse to not get a workout in.
On that note, don't wait for the perfect outfit. Don't wait for the perfect time. Go get in some movement. Go train hard. Appreciate you guys, and see you guys again later on this week.
See ya.